The more hot blondes we have, the better.
Okay.
Welcome everybody. There's been an update. Just start off. I got Big Jeff with me, Calf, and Kelly. I initially
Hey,
called.
hey.
I initially called on Monday to get the information for the hearing, and clerk's office answered. They said that the people that were in charge, because apparently the information wasn't on the Pacers site, so then she took my name down, and then the clerk called me back. There's two clerks, Chrissy and Chris. Chrissy called me back and was like, I didn't even say anything really. She was like, "You're calling about what case?" I gave her the case number, and she was like, "No, this is a private matter. You can't." I was like, "Okay, thank you." Hung up. So then I called this morning, and they said the same thing. The clerks weren't in the office. They'll give me a call back. Took down my name. Unfortunately, the lady called me back after the hearing had already gone through. Of course. But just a little overview. First, Judge Peppers had the case. She then passed it on to Judge Ludwig. Ludwig then passed it on to Duffin. But there was some things that happened to get us to that point. This is a letter written to Judge Ludwig telling them that in the follow-up court recent order for mediation in the matter, the parties have conferred and agreed that the mediation before a magistrate judge would be most appropriate. The parties request to the extent the court is willing to appoint Magistrate Judge William Duffin, whose experience in the Dassey matter may prove helpful in the mediation. Thank you very much. Very truly yours, by the law and form of Conway, blah, 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 on behalf of Andrew Colborn. It was then signed by all the other defendants, so they all agreed for Duffin to be the magistrate. Then we had the order of Duffin being assigned. As requested to the parties, it is ordered that this case is referred to Magistrate Judge William E. Duffin for the purpose of mediation. If the report Judge Duffin files at the conclusion of the mediation indicates that the parties are unable to resolve the case, this case will be returned to this court for further processing. That's very important. So this is the mediation offer regarding the proceedings. This is them saying that they're conduct a hearing yesterday on the 9th. Continuation, a person with full settlement authority also must be present at the conference. Parties shall not be permitted to appear by telephone. The requirement consents to present a party or if a party authorized representation of a party who can settle the case during the course of a conference. Pre-trial settlement conference demand and offer. A settlement conference is more likely to be productive if before the conference parties have had a chance to discuss settlement proposals. Prior to the conference, the attorneys are directed to discuss settlement with their represented clients and their potential insurance representatives. In addition, on or before February 16, 2021, plaintiffs' counsel shall submit a written settlement demand to the defendant's counsel, brief explanation which settlement appropriate. Now, we know that when Judge Duffin seen the case last, they hadn't even talked about any kind of monetary value whatsoever. So this is just him stipulating what should happen. Well, when Colborn had sent that email, he was basing it on, because that's what the people that sued for the documentary on Netflix for the Challenger explosion, they were seeking $14 million. So I'm assuming he was basing that on what? Mm-hmm. No. Because it was a video conference. Yeah, but due to COVID, not all cases are being seen in the court. There are some like high profile cases that are still being seen in the court. Because I've seen on the docket that some of the judges are having in person cases. Just a majority of them are set for video conferences or telephone conferences. But I don't know. But this is all the exhibits that were submitted for his first claim. It's uh, all the episodes of Making a Murder 1, the depositions of Griesbach, Colborn, uh, Peterson, basically all the depositions that you've seen them reference in Making a Murder. There's also Reddit posts, other news programs, all kinds of stuff. But this is what was submitted yesterday. Minute entry for proceedings held before Magistrate Judge William E. Duffin. Settlement conference held on yesterday, 3/9/2021. Mediation did not result in a resolution of the matter. Case no longer referred to Magistrate Duffin. So that means it's going back to Ludwig.
So what are the options? So that would be either a trial, or could he potentially just go, you know what, I'm going to
Hold on, where is it? Where was it? I lost it. Was it right here? No. Oh, that's weird. What about now? Can you say something?
Can you hear us? Can we get a sound check in the chat, please?
It's probably buffering. I should be able to hear you now. But basically, it's going back to Ludwig. And unless I'm wrong, it'll be sent back to the circuit court, which means Peppers.
I think that the plaintiff might have a choice as to whether or not he wants it to be a judge or jury trial. If Travis were here, he'd know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, I can see that he probably wanted a reasonable amount of money to settle this, or it's like we said last time, which was it's just if you're Netflix, and you sort of open up this floodgate then anybody in the world can sue because they don't like how they were portrayed in Netflix. So it just doesn't make sense for Netflix to budge on, um, you know, paying, anything, because pretty soon, even if you only pay them $100,000, how many people are going to come forward, like the Tiger King documentaries, and even though I think they tried to do very you know, sort of handle everybody with kid gloves on that Hotel Cecil one that we were talking about. Um, Somebody could still, like the rocker could say, oh well, in this episode you portrayed me as a potential murderer and people believed that, and I got nasty emails, and I had to buy my blind wife a gun,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to fend off the angry hordes that were bombarding my house. So once you open that spigot, the floodgates open. You don't know what you're gonna get. So I think they have really no choice but to sort of fight this tooth and nail and say, you're a public figure, so you don't like how you got portrayed. Too bad. Maybe next time we should fess up to what phone
Well,
calls you took and what cars you took into custody.
we all know if Netflix loses, they can afford this. But if Colborn loses, he's going to have a pretty big legal bill. So, yeah. Well, it's good news.
I just lost audio.
Well, I can hear you, Jeff. Your thoughts, Kelly, Calf?
I really just hope that it goes to evidentiary hearing. I hope that they absolutely make him sweat. I hope they bring up, because of a civil court case, we know that they have their hands aren't as bound as a criminal case, so they're allowed to go far and beyond in terms of doing their research and bringing up everything. So let's just hope that it gets there and they put him on the spot, get him to talk about the phone calls and the dropouts and what he was doing on the 4th, and really just narrow it in. So let's hope this is where they're going to go with it.
Yep. Well, as Ludwig was saying that his initial claims statute of limitations have run out, so I really don't know what they're going to do. I knew settlement, they're probably going to contest just like they did the first claims, because right before Duffin seen the case, or Ludwig seen the case, they submitted claims from season 2. So, and Ludwig told them, your claims are statute of limitations run out. I can't do anything about that. But seeing how you now submitted new briefs, he's going to take a look at that. But then it was pushed off to Duffin. So, but he also asked them, because he wasn't going to watch Making a Murder, for them to, both sides, to give him examples of what they're claiming. Be interesting if we get the letters that they wrote to each party.
He was not. Did you say he was not?
He was.
Or he was going to? Oh, okay.
Yep. But then it went back to Duffin, so now it's going back to Ludwig. So he was saying that the statute of limitations run out on your first claims, but he might have merit on the second claims. But the only thing that is mentioned about Colborn is the Kevin Ramla incident that's in Making Murder 2, where they talk about him.
That's
seeing...
it. They don't replay the trial scene at all in Making a Murderer 2, where he's got that goofy face.
I don't know. I've watched it once, and that was in 2018. It's been over 3 years, so almost 3 years. Maybe 3 years this year.
I honestly don't remember either.
I've been thinking,
but they reused a lot.
I think maybe going back and watching it again.
Yeah.
Maybe things will pop out before even more. Now I know so much. Or when I first watched it. Just listening to these dispatch calls again, and easy peasy. Now, finding things. You guys got any questions in the chat?
Just reading through it now.
Don't look like any.
So pretty much everyone's just talking about what we're all wanting as well. Just everyone wants there to be all Colborn walk away with nothing and have to get the pressure put on him, I guess.
Yep. Well, as soon as there's any more updates, I will get an email again. So. But tomorrow we'll be going over Stephen Avery's interview on the 5th.
Yeah. The other thing is, it is a good question. There is a comment in here. I'm just trying to find where it is, by Dark Side of the Moon. And they said, I wondered why Kratz, Link, and Ryan didn't sue. And that's pretty much what it comes down to, what we've been saying, right? If Colborn gets anywhere with this, it opens the can of worms for these people to like sniff around.
Not
but
for season, not for season one.
Not for season one, no. But season 2, hell, Ryan was the highlight of Kathleen's main Denny suspect in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby wasn't even he was on the radar, but he wasn't the one. It was all about Ryan. The day planner, and don't forget the light, the broken tail light that he was the only one that connected himself with. Things like that.
It's funny how you see them in the KSO2 report. They talked to all of her friends and they got all these reports. Where were all those friends back in 2005?
Right. Nowhere to be found.
They asked everybody under the sun, or anybody that could recall or have a photo of her car with the damage to it, and nobody could. Not even the people she's seen that day.
Mike Hallback allegedly searched high and low because he was sure he had one. And
Mm-hmm.
never came up with it.
Only photo we have is the black and white ones, but I've seen the color ones, but they're still shitty. From the KSO2 report, where she's standing outside the bar and they're on that dead end street, or they're her at Depeer Park.
Well, the fact of the matter is that despite certain people's claims that Teresa, put into her insurance company for the money for that tail light and just never got the repair fixed, the insurance company denies that. So we still don't have a good answer for that story. Sorry,
didn't
Jen.
it slip Ryan's mind again a few years later, and he said he never said that originally?
It's too bad somebody wrote it down. Unfortunately for him, somebody wrote it down.
Makes me wonder why Traveler's insurance company was calling to talk to the lead investigator.
Traveling insurance.
That's the name of the company.
Travelers, yeah.
Traveler's insurance company called the KSO dispatch wanting to talk to the lead investigator.
If Ryan tried to sue Netflix, it'd be more like Ryan would be on trial instead of suing.
It would be.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that people haven't stepped in for discovery, because that's usually a big part of something that happened. Well, I guess they tried mediation, so I guess if there is going to be a discovery phase of this, now is the time for discovery. And
well, you can do mediation, and then and if it doesn't work out, which just happened in this case, it doesn't mean they can't still settle out of court before it gets to court again. Like Netflix could reach out, or Colburn's lawyers could reach out, and they could still do a settlement still in between.
I think that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you would do that, but yeah.
Well, if it does go to evidentiary hearing, it's probably just going to be based on his claims, not anything else. But he did submit all them things. Basically, he submitted everything in Making a Murder.
I don't know if this is a rumor. I don't know if we've actually even spoke about this yet, but I do believe that I had read sometime this morning that I think AC or someone on Twitter sent Buting all the new emails, and they have then forwarded onto Netflix. So Netflix has now got them themselves personally. So just in time for them to go, you know what, we ain't settling.
Well, I'm hoping a link to those emails go up because it was on Reddit, but they removed it. Somebody complained.
Really?
Yeah. It was the emails are redacted, so I don't understand what they'd be complaining about. That's why I don't really do Reddit here and there. I look at some few posts.
Did you happen to go back and check to see if any of those Reddit posts were yours that they're complaining about?
I don't post very much. I've only posted on Reddit probably 3 times. If that. No more than a handful.
That'd be like a badge of honor, though, right? If your Reddit posts were being used by Colborn as evidence that he had been wronged by Netflix, I'd consider that a badge of honor myself. I don't know about you guys.
I'm not trying to help him.
No, but that would just mean that something that you wrote stuck in his craw so deeply that he cited it, in his lawsuit. That's what that says to me.
Do we have any idea how much he's trying to sue for?
No.
No.
No idea.
That's what the email said. The email said for like 14 million, and that was like what said based on the other case.
He might be suing for a shovel to help remove the sand from where. The next minute, Brutus the dog comes along and hits on the shovel.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a ball figure of around say 36 million.
Right.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, it does.
I don't even know what he imagined he'd file for.
I really think that he's just trying to, sort of dip his ladle into the giant Netflix money pool. And, I just think Netflix is at a point where they just can't afford to file this, in the nuisance category.
Well, it's costing him too. The more he drags it on, the more it's costing him.
Well, we all know why Link didn't jump in on his lawsuit, because in the trial, they proved that Link lied.
Yeah. Is Link still alive?
I believe so. Only person I know that's died that's involved with making a murder is Dean and Jerry's investigator.
You mean also Gene Couché?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jacobson.
Dennis Jacobs. I mean, but that was involved with making the murder after it was aired.
Yeah.
Well, the case, and
Millbilly, you have a question from a Shane Henry. Millbilly, what is your take on KZ saying most likely Bobby and Scott did the crime? KZ even did a reenactment video with Bobby catching up with her.
I don't know. It doesn't matter what she puts in the videos, but she submitted those as exhibits too. So I don't know.
I think at the end of the day, what it is that she has to provide a plausible story that is some alternative to the the story that the state provided, and whether you believe that story or not, there's this issue that they have to treat that story as true. There's evidence that Bobby lied, that he did not wake up in the middle of the day, like he said. There's internet records that show that he was surfing porn that morning. Does that mean he didn't? No, a lot of people surf porn. But when you're creating an alternative and this doesn't mean that if, oh, by the way, Stephen and Brendan are exonerated, that they march Bobby into the prison the next day. What it means is that she's just using this as sort of a most viable tool based on the evidence to show that there is reasonable doubt. So this is an expression of reasonable doubt more than it is more than it is anything else. So if you're a family member or whatnot, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily treat this as an accusation of the family so much as a posture of reasonable doubt for Stephen and Brendan. I think that's the right way to look at it, because I don't think there's enough evidence against anybody if Stephen and Brendan get out to be able to convict anybody. That the evidence that, as you've said many times, Kel, the evidence collection was just so mishandled. It was so bungled so badly by the state that there's no prayer of catching the real killer. They tried to, they had Stephen in mind, and now they're going to have to, unfortunately, it's them at the end of the day who screwed the Hallback family out of justice for their daughter, just because they had myopia for Stephen, or either because it was sort of a legitimate myopia, they couldn't believe it was anybody else, or because he had this $16 million lawsuit, $38 million lawsuit on his hands. You can take your pick as to which one you want to believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that she has a job to do, and she's providing the criteria to do that. Hell, we don't even know. Kathleen might have. There's been rumors throughout the years that Kathleen has spoken to Barb and Scott and even passed along a message to Bobby saying, listen, I don't necessarily think you guys did it even. I have to provide a Denny alternative because I'm trying to free Stephen, your brother, or your nephew, and his nephew Brennan, or your son, whoever it is she's talking to. And this is my job. And I know it's like hurting because it's another accusation on your family, but I have to do it. And, that's maybe why Bobby's never come forward and given his, intake of what he's feeling from it, because frankly, he's like, I've got nothing to hide, but I'm just letting Kathleen do what she has to do. So at the end of the day, she's providing a alternative, and we have to respect that. But at the same time, I don't believe it was Bobby at all. I don't actually think it was probably anyone to do with the family. I think it was a strategic reason to get it to look like it was they were all turned on each other. Yes, Bobby lied on the stand. Yes, there's all these, contradictions, but
Everybody lied on the stand.
Exactly. Everyone lied. Stephen has lied. We need to throw that out there. Stephen has changed his story numerous times in very, very significant ways that has altered.
It doesn't matter because what's happened in court is what we're arguing. That's what the record is. Until
the record
Kathleen gets her evidentiary hearing, that will lead to a new trial.
And then they go from there. And let's face it, Kathleen has said that she doesn't even think that law enforcement had something to do with some of the planting. I know deep down most of us think that's bullshit. We think that she's playing poker face just because it's a strategic reason to get them to back off her, to make her think, oh, hey, she's not looking at us anymore, let's lower the guard a bit. But do we that's what I mean. Just because Kathleen's saying it doesn't mean she even believes it herself. She just has to work on the case one way or the other.
She said that, but then she said in her recent brief that Wiegert took the groin swabs that were taken on the 9th and used those for the Hoodlack swabs. So you can say that whatever she said, that law enforcement didn't have anything to do with the planting, but she made this outright claim.
She tweeted something. Tweets don't mean shit. It's what she admits in her briefs. She can tweet all she wants. What she put in her briefs is what matters.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. But then in saying that, and I have to play the devil's advocate here, she has made briefs, and through her briefs, she has changed the dynamic a lot. She starts with something and she ends. She's withdrawn things. She's added things. So as this case grows, she's growing with it. So even though her briefs start one way, they don't end the way that they started a year or two earlier. She started all her briefs with Ryan, for God's sake. Now she's ending them all with Bobby. So she's adapting to the case like everyone is. But at the same time, the briefs are also almost like a Twitter. She can say what she wants in that brief, but she too is changing the narrative herself as she goes along. it has to be addressed, because that's the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is, if you look at her arguments along the lines of, Stephen should have been allowed to name any suspects, and Ryan was, and that was, he was fundamentally denied that right, and therefore deserves a new trial. And she makes good arguments as to why Ryan is a viable suspect and why Bobby's a viable suspect, Denny's suspect.
Mm-hmm.
That she should have been allowed to name, and Stephen's rights were violated because she wasn't.
Dean and Jerry should have been able to do that, but
Ryan was never even treated as a suspect, and yet most women that are murdered, 80% of the time, it's an ex-boyfriend or a current boyfriend, husband that's done it. Yet he's never treated as a suspect, not even once.
Exactly right.
But yet he's over there all the time. He's guessing passwords. He's,
Right.
Well, if it is Ryan that is responsible for this, that knock on Leo R's door may have been Kelly Pitson.
Could have been. I don't. My personal feeling is that we're never going to know. I tend not to believe it. But
you do realize that's the same night that she's reported missing, when Leo gets a knock on the door. We know Mike Halbach is south of Manitowoc at that bar handing out flyers. Somebody was in Manitowoc handing out flyers because they put it on the Senex station, because Officer Ryan Gilbert from the Manitowoc Police Department calls the Manitowoc Dispatch on the evening of the 3rd and asks about Carmen Bootwall and wants to know if it has anything to do with the missing person. She then informs him, nope, it had nothing to do with it, because her neighbor lives next door to Carmen Bootwall.
See,
So
the thing is,
somebody from the family was handing out flyers just down the road from Stephen Avery's house.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, so they obviously knew.
Then we got Colborn calling in the plates, and then we hear in the background someone saying the car is here.
We never ever found out, like, we heard that a girl that looked exactly like Teresa knocked on his door asking for directions, but we never found out directions to where.
No. Well, we hear Wiegert say when he hears about the tip, oh, that's definitely not the case, just write it down and I'll look at it when I get back. This is after Cuss Road has happened. So why is he saying that? She's still a missing person. It's all over the news, missing person still. The first report of them finding bones is on Wednesday on the news, which is the 9th.
It's the myopia, right? That myopia is from, a legitimate myopia against Stephen, because
for instance, you see how they treated Cuss Road, and they got all the measurements and everything. Why didn't they do the same thing to the RAV4 before it left the property?
The evidence collection was bungled so badly. That's really, at the end of the day, what's going to come back and bite the state in the ass, is that the lack of proper procedure during that collection, and not marking off the bone area, the burn pit area.
Well, just think about it. On the 5th, they bring in
bad.
Brutus. He then hits on the rear tailgate of her car. They remove her car. They then bring Loof in on the 7th and say, hey, can you check her scent? And they bring her to where her car was. What scent is he tracking? Because then they request her shoes. And Pago goes and gets him, meets the officer. Wendling, I believe, is the one that got him. And then they start tracking her scent all around the berm, along the field towards Cuss Road. Tries to go towards the blue tarp and is pushed back. And what do? They bring Loof back the next day.
It just seems to me, for those dog tracks that Braun showed during the Mammothon, there's just too many of them, right? That it's just not believable
Mm-hmm.
That there's all those tracks.
It really bothers me that the tracks go from the suspected burial site, goes through the deer camp, through the quarry, and then goes on the queue. And they're tracking her scent.
Right. When the people searching were in her apartment, right, and sat on the same couch that she sat on, and
Well, they never let the searchers on the property on the 7th. They stopped them at the checkpoint because Cuffs Road happened.
if you believe that, yeah. But we know Ryan was on the property, right? We know.
Oh, twice, the same day
Yeah,
on the
twice.
7th, accompanied with Scott Blodorn.
So
Deb Strauss arrives. They arrive. They leave. She leaves, and then they come back around 4:30 in the afternoon. And then the next day, they start finding everything.
miraculously.
Mm-hmm. Makes one think.
Mm.
And out of all the dispatch calls we have, the one that bothers me the most is the call about them finding a body.
The one that says we heard it on the scanner.
Her a friend of the family overheard it on the scanner.
Right.
And just going over all the events of the 7th, and I don't know. I know what I think happened. They found her body.
I think we cut Kath off when she was trying to make a point.
Go ahead, Kev.
I can't remember now. Moved on from that. What was I saying?
I don't know. I couldn't hear you over Bill Billy.
Sorry.
Oh, Mel Billy.
He was on a roll, though. You can't expect him to stop when he's on a roll like that.
Yeah, well, now I've forgotten.
Well,
As you can remember.
any more questions out there? Send them in.
I started chatting, like in the chat. Forgot.
Yeah, they completely demolished the burn pit.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was so unprofessional.
Another thing that boggles my mind with the sign-in and sign-out sheets, the B&G waste removal people are there with the officer from True Rivers Police Department, that she states that while she was accompanied the B&G waste guy, she noticed that the dog was acting funny. That guy is not signing in the property on the day she says it happened.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Did they, every time you dig into something in this case, there's just so much wrong. Right? Well, how is it that there's nothing that's right? You know what I mean? It's just nothing. There's just crap everywhere. You'd think that there would be at least some things that were sort of cut and dry. There's just not.
All right. Well, why does Julie look like an angry genie tonight? Nah, funny, Jamie. But I think that's about it. Again, we'll see you guys tomorrow, going over that Stephen Avery November 5th interview. So, thank you all for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Y'all have a good night.
Y'all.
Later. Y'all.